Hi, everyone. Hi, everyone. It's time to start, and it seems that everybody's here already, so find a place to sit, and welcome to our next crew talk. And this time it's our design crew who will be speaking. And today's topic is how to start new projects, like different approaches to product discovery. And I have sad news. So, as you see, we should have 4 speakers, but Peppa, the last speaker, unfortunately called in sick recently, and therefore he will not be joining us. That would mean that we have in front of us one talk, which is by Honza, and will be about design sprints. And then we had scheduled a panel discussion, but it's kind of like, if we are the ones who doing the talking, uplifting people, that would be pretty boring, right? Because different approaches to product discovery, not too different, right? So we thought that we could have a roundtable discussion afterwards. So we'll shuffle places a bit and then have a open discussion with everyone about how to approach product discovery. And most importantly, I'll have a surprise for you. So stay tuned, and let's start with Honza's talk. And this is Honza. Honza is one of our people who are doing design sprints at Applifting, and he's the head of business. So Honza, take it away.
Thank you very much. Okay, just a second. Maybe, yeah, now I have it. So hi guys, welcome all here. It's nice that we are here in so many people. Before I will start, I should maybe introduce myself a little bit. So I'm a guy who had already many career from different angles, but there is some kind of common thing in it, and it's like I'm in software development, especially for German-speaking market, Scandinavian market, UK market, but also Czech market for around 12 years. I started as a developer, then as a project manager. I'm a big UX enthusiast, doing design sprints for around 8 years. Then I was also leading the department of around 120 developers, and also part of it was UX designers. And recently I joined Applifting as a head of business and delivery, and I just wanted to share that basically I will be looking at product discovery from different angles during my 12 years experience. If anyone would be interested, I'm a big chess fan, so if there are any chess players here, we can just do a quick chess.com match afterwards. And I also like teaching on university, so for around 8 years also I'm teaching on Vysoká škola ekonomická, the University of Economics, where we are teaching some kind of a startup life cycle, also connected with product discovery. So what is the agenda of today? It's basically to show you design sprints from, again, the various angles. How was the life before design sprints? Design sprint in a nutshell, because probably there might be people who never heard about that. Some kind of benefits, because if you want to go to your boss and say, hey, let's do design sprints, I want to give you some cheat sheet, what to tell to your boss, to your customer, to your development team, what are the key benefits you want to sell. Some kind of deeper context and some case studies and fuck-ups. But before that, let's talk about life before design sprint. I think that we should move a little bit on the beginning, so I want to know my audience. So can you just tell me who is here from the designers section, like some UX designers? Raise your hand. Cool. Maybe second question from the product. So product people on the other side. Okay, around 5 of them. Developers? Nice. So we are kind of even. So we have those 3 camps, maybe which we can battling against each other later on in the roundtable discussion. And basically, I can imagine that all rest of you are somehow involved in the software development from various angles. Last question, raise your hand if you were able to deliver all of your projects without any fuck-ups on the beginning. Interesting. Let's talk about it a little bit. So, live before design sprint. When I started doing, especially like as a project manager, kickoff of the projects, I was every time focused on, okay, we need to have some cheat sheet, what to do. We need to talk about acceptance criteria, definition of done. We need to do some proper kickoff. And it usually started like this. We knew that customer is ready, and we knew it that they are ready because they had money. They had, okay, I have the budget approved, let's start. What we need a team. Okay, they called Uplifting. Sure, we will set up a team. We will have 2 front-end developers, 2 back-end developers, no problem at all. Some QA engineers as well, maybe UX on the beginning. I gave some kind of instructions to the client what needs to be prepared before the project will start. You need to have a backlog ready. You need to have some designs, and I was every time ensured, yes, we have it, no problem, just come to us, and we will do it. I took my team, we traveled to, for instance, Stockholm, and this happened. Actually, backlog was half prepared. There were no designs. The roadmap of the project, the vision of the project was very, very rough, and there were so many unknowns. But you know, we are experts. We somehow improvised. During some discussions during 2 days, we got those information out of the client. And because every good kickoff ends with some kind of a team building activity, beer, so we partied, we set up the connection, no problem, we will somehow manage it. We traveled back to Prague and started developing. But we realized that during the first sprint, the team is blocked on the very first stories. Actually, more and more clarification calls are needed. And the first story, which was assigned to the team, was completely misunderstood and need to be redone. But no problem, we are agile, that happens. Not everything needs to be documented and specification is not clear. We will manage it. We gave some first some negative points in the retrospective. Clients said that they will improve it, no problem at all. MVP is approaching, and the design has changed already 3 times. There are tons of redos. We have tons of clarification call, but somehow we are finalizing the MVP after the 3 months. Let's show it to the users. They will love it, but they don't. Users are chaotically scrolling through the application. They told us that it's quite a nice idea, but not exactly what they wanted and what they need. Actually, everyone is, I'm sorry for the wording, everyone is pissed. Not only us, including customer, and everyone is finger pointing. It's your fault, you didn't understand it, uplifting, or no, customer, you didn't prepare your homework really well. And actually, very nice cooperation, which normally should last around 1 year, 2 years, already had its damages after 3 months of development. But let's imagine that in a parallel universe, this didn't happen. There was a team who started to completely differently, and they knew their end user's reaction not in 3 months of development, but just in 5 days. And they did it because they started with something which is called design sprint. Just apology. Maybe before that, raise your hand who has already experience with something like design sprint. So around 7, 8 people. Cool. So for the rest, what is design sprint? Design sprint is a 5-day workshop which is focusing on setting up big challenge where you want to aim your product for around 6 months, maybe 1 year. And you want to show it to your 5 end users at the end of the whole week, and get the feedback from the users, and test basically and to build a real-looking prototype which you are going to demonstrate to the users. How it works? It's a workshop where you have around 7 people, which is combined from the customer side, which is usually around 4 people, maybe somehow C-level management, future product owner. If you are, for instance, making an app which is also connected to getting some feedback from customer care, you can have people from the customer care or some head of marketing. And these people from customers are combined with our people or your people, which is UX designers or maybe future product members. How it also works, it's a combination of some individual work and also with some kind of effective decision making. So there are set of activities which are done individually, and then somehow they are somehow prioritized together and I will show it to you in the next slides. And what is most important, it's a Pareto rule in practice. So we are trying to get this, let's say, 80% of what normal product discovery does in just around 20% of time. What is needed from your side, if you are really considering design sprint to do it right, you need not only the core team, you need also experts, which is some people who knows what we need to build, and they cannot be part of this whole 5-day process. And you need to define also out of these 7-8 people, somebody who is a so-called decision maker. If you did you see the movie Ocean's 11? Or in Czech we said Dannyho parťáci. So you need to have this Danny Ocean guy, because in some cases we will be stuck in endless discussions, and we need someone who will say it's going to be like this, and let's move on. So we need to select your Danny Ocean. And what is also very important, you need to book the calendar for the whole 5 days. And usually customers ask me, but you know, we have meetings and we cannot do this. And actually, I'm trying to convince them that you need to book those 5 days. And normally they have vacations and so on. So after some very tiring discussion, they realize that they will book the 5 days and it's fine. So day-by-day process. During first day, we are trying to map what is the user flow of the application, some kind of a user journey mapping, and identifying what is the goal of the design sprint out of the map. Then during the second day, you are sketching and deciding which sketches and which part of the sketches you will use. During Wednesday and Thursday, you are prototyping, and on Friday, you are testing your prototype with the 5 end users and doing some design sprint evaluation. Actually, why I put these arrows? Because in the book, Design Sprint from Jake Knapp, they said that this is the instruction day by day, so sketching Tuesday, Wednesday, deciding. But my experience is that you can shrink the sketching and deciding to 1 day and have much more time for prototyping, which makes the designs look much better. What are we using for actually doing the design sprint once the team is together? We are using a tool which is called FigJam. I think that many of you knows it. So actually day-by-day process, I can show just a second. Looks something like this. So there are activities, for instance, for goal definition. You set up an activity for around 15 minutes. People write down what they think the goal should be. Then they are voting. And there is really step-by-step approach with first goal definition, challenge definition, then interviewing with the experts, then let's say the user journey mapping, and selecting the best map, and defining the goal of what you want to do. And we basically use FigJam to go through the process, and we use only some part of activities which is used without the tool behind. So I already mentioned that on Monday, what we are trying to do is scoping of the design sprint, because what should be said to the customer is that you are not going to design whole application. That's totally impossible, especially when the application is very big. So we need to say that maybe it's not really important to design how our login looks like. All login or registration looks the same, more or less, of course. So you need to define which part is critical and which has got most risk, which we need to test by our end users to know whether we are heading a good direction or bad direction. In our case, when we did this internal design sprint, we defined it, for instance, that we want to start with some dashboard and we want to end with some kind of allocation management, which is changed at the end, and some notification is sent to the people. But so goal definition is the beginning. What you should also define on the first day of design sprint is to set up some challenges. What can go wrong? And you will be on the 5th day answering if any of those 4 risks which you are going to define was happening or not, and if we should follow up with the development after the design sprint. As I said, during first day you are also doing some interviews, which is usually around 20 to 30 minutes. And you are doing it with those people who could not be part of the whole core team for the 5 days, plus also people which are part of the core team, but of course not the UX designers or product people from our side who does not know about the idea that much. And what you are doing is you are setting up something around 100 of ideas, which we are formulating in a form of how might we nodes, which is something like, if you said that this application before had some performance issues, you are going to set up the node in a way, how might we tweak performance to be, for instance, in, I don't know, 2 times faster. And then, out of those nodes, which I just maybe can show here, which is really a lot of nodes out of these 6 interviews, you are just going to select only few which you are going to consider for voting, and out of the few, you will select 8 which are most important for our design sprint, as you can see by those votes. What is the last part? You are going to define the scoping of the design sprint, as I said, and how can this be done? You're placing those 8 nodes which you selected to the part of the user journey process which is relevant to this node, and it's some kind of a heat map of, okay, this process is important based on the nodes, this as well, and then it's clearly defined that this is not important and everything behind is also not important. What you are doing on Tuesday is you start as usual, as artists usually do. You are stealing. You're stealing ideas from your competition, direct or indirect. So you can, of course, look at similar app on the market, abroad, here, or you can also look at some big brands, how, for instance, Netflix is focusing on filtering and showing their catalog. You can have a look at how Alza is doing, I don't know, their shopping cart. So you can look at anything which is relevant for us, which will help us put our ideas on a paper. After that, most funny part is sketching. I think that there are many people here who like sketching, but our customers usually don't like sketching. There are people like me who are very bad in activities, you know, this game, when you also need to sketch and nobody would pick me into the team, believe me. But anyhow, even though I'm very bad in sketching, I can do rectangles, I can do circles, so don't worry, everyone can do that. And you are transferring your ideas on the paper, which is very important, because if I'm describing my ideas, probably you will just understand only a third of it, but if I put it on the paper, it's much clearer what you want to achieve by that. What is important is that while you are sketching, you somehow need to make it done that you will not present your sketch afterwards. It needs to present itself. So there cannot be any descriptions. It just needs to be very well, good claims selected, somehow. Basically, it just needs to prove that itself, because I need to reduce the speaker and his ability of selling something. It needs to be only the idea which is selling. What is happening after that is some kind of heat mapping. So I put all the papers on the wall, and we as a team will just have a number of these rounded stick notes, and we are just selecting which ideas on each drawing we like. And as a heat map, it will show, okay, the idea of a catalog right there is very good. Maybe we want to show the gamification feature like this. And after all of this, we somehow, in a process of then describing, this is called speed critic. Me as a facilitator, I will just somehow say what I think this drawing is trying to do. Sorry, we don't have the image. Okay, no problem. And after the speed critic, okay, thanks. After the speed critics, we are selecting only 2 designs or 2 sketches which we are going to use for our prototype. What is also happening afterwards during the second day is so-called storyboarding. Anyone who knows movies, storyboard is the view-by-view preparation for our prototype. So we will say what we will do in the design phase of prototyping, step by step, including how we will start to set up the scene. You need to also implement some role-playing in it, because if you want to do usability testing right, you should not say, hey, here's the app and tell me what it does, because they don't know what we are trying to test. So you need to get them somehow into the scene, tell what their role usually is, and maybe we also like to interact in a way that we, for instance, send an email and say, hey, I'm your boss, please try to use this app to, I don't know, solve an allocation management or whatever. So what is happening on Wednesday, Thursday is this prototyping part. So you might think that that's easy. UX designers will do it. I will have a break for 2 days. It's not going to happen. Again, we lost our connection, Tomáš. Sorry for that. So what is usually happening is that you have UX designers doing the designs in one room, while the second part of the group is creating content. So we need to create content for claims. We need to create tables with real-looking data, because what can affect the testing is if you have not real-looking data, because people will feel, okay, this is not how allocation looks like. So the rest of the team, especially on the customer side, can do that. And there is also one person who is preparing the interview script, because if you want to do the usability testing right, again, you need to set up the scene, you need to place roles, you need to also prepare what will be the happy path and what are maybe the edge cases which can happen, and how to set up so-called like A/B testing, because maybe you can also define in the prototype 2 flows how to go and already test which flow is better. You can imagine that, if for doing this for 2 days, it also needs to be streamlined somehow. So what I'm usually doing is to have something like 2-hour slots for working without any like, I don't know, lot of chaos. And after those 2 hours, we have something like 30-minute slots to align if those 3 groups are heading the same direction. In the team, there can be also a role of stitcher. This is usually this Danny Ocean, who are going around the teams if they need anything. But what is very crucial is that those designers cannot be somehow disturbed during these 2 hours. Because if we will always go there and just ask them, hey, do you have this, do you have this, they will not make it in these 2 days. And that's why they need to have time. They need to have time and like some space for doing that. What is also important, and my suggestion for you, is that every time you should do a dry run at the end of Thursday to make sure that prototype is working fine without any problems, and test it on some of your colleagues and so on. Maybe it was kind of obvious, but I will also mention how we are doing the prototype. It's not like developing it. It's done in Tool Figma. And in reality, it's just like a lot of connection between different designs. UX designers know that, but just for anyone who didn't see that, this is the, let's say, real-looking facade which we are creating. On Friday, we are doing so-called like usability testing in one-to-one interviews. So one of us as a team is the interviewer in a separate room. The rest of the team is again also in a separate room, seeing the recording or seeing the streaming of this session and doing notes. So maybe just sorry, I will just show here. During the interview, we are somehow going user by user, where basically columns are the different users and rows are different sections of the app. So for instance, here we were collecting feedback for dashboard, for detail of the project, some like adding of the allocations. And as you can probably guess, the green points were things which went good during the testing. The orange one, some kind of neutral or new ideas, and the red ones were some kind of bad things which went wrong. And if you are just putting the notes right, you can already see some kind of a how to say semaphore in English? Traffic light, thank you. So it's a kind of traffic light of which part of the section went wrong and needs to be redone, which is totally fine. So I can imagine that, okay, this didn't have really a lot of negative points. This is worth reconsidering. Okay. What is also happening is that at the end of all 5 interviews, you will probably see some patterns, but the purpose of the 5th day is not to right now go through the patterns with the team. This is something which you should do after the design sprint. But what is also already possible, that you can do some kind of closure with the client. Okay, let's answer if our goal, which we set up on the beginning, if we are able to achieve it based on our current interviews and findings. Do you feel that those 4 risks which we set up on the beginning are going to happen. And you are also defining what are the next steps. Can we start working after this already? Do we need to do a new design sprint? And basically also you are setting up some next actions, like which screens maybe we will like redo based on the feedback, and if there is some product work afterwards. If you want to sell design sprint to your client, the usual feedback should be, or usual selling points should be, you can clarify your ideas just in 5 days if you're heading good direction or bad direction. It's a very good basis for any kind of project initiation and kickoff, because usually, as I said on the beginning, customers are not ready with their backlog, or they think they are ready, but once we will explore much better and we will start designing it, they will realize that there are a lot of stories that they are actually not ready and they will be put out of the backlog from the beginning. And if you are aiming the product right, you're of course saving a lot of money and time to market. If you want to sell it to your development team, because they might feel like, okay, why we are doing this, let's start immediately from the development, we know it. I think that none of my developers from the past liked very chaotic projects. So it's improving the vision of what we want to build. And actually, as we have already a real-looking prototype, it's quite visualized. We also know what we don't know. That means this is not going to be assigned to the sprint before actually it's going to be clarified. And honestly, for me, I every time like to do projects which make sense and not something which I knew from the very beginning is a trash, sorry for saying that. So at least based on the feedback from the users, I know that this makes sense. But there are some other psychological effects which I found out after those 8 years. If you, for instance, are setting up a new relationship with your customer, maybe also with a new team, by doing design sprint together, you are getting to know each other better and you are building the relationship from the beginning, because actually design sprint can make a lot of wow effect of what can be done just in 5 days. So if you are doing this, probably you are going to win the relationship with the client and you are going to show your expertise from the very, very beginning, which is something which usually takes a team around like 3 months of building MVP to get this impression. So by this, you can win the impression of the customers much faster. And also, if you are having your future, for instance, developers can be also part of your design sprint, and if they are part of it, there is this effect of it's my baby, because I was able to affect the ideation phase of the product, and I'm not considered only a coding monkey which is going to develop it. Design sprint in numbers. So it's 1 main goal verified. It's 4 big risks clarified. During this how might we know section, you are creating hundreds of ideas, which you might not even use for design sprint, but for some kind of other nice to have features which you want to have in your backlog. This is actually a good base for this brainstorming. You're going to have 1 mock-up or prototype done, 5 users' feedback, and a lot of extra content generated. But how Horst Fuchs would say, that's still not enough. What is the biggest benefit? Biggest benefit to be said is to know just in 5 days that you are heading bad direction. And actually, in my 8 years design sprint career, if it can be said, I did around 40 design sprints, and 39 out of those were converted to some kind of project, and only 1 not. And that was actually the most successful one, and it was the one which we said just in 5 days, it's a bad idea, users don't need it, and we saved a lot of money of our client, who actually was very thankful for it, that they came to us 2 years later with another project which we tested again with design sprint, much better idea, and we did that. So, maybe last point before some kind of discussion, last few points, sorry. When to use design sprint? Ideally, of course, when you are starting a new project. But it necessarily doesn't have to be a start of a new project. It can be also some kind of new big features development, a new milestone development. So usually, I can imagine if Alza would have a totally new breaking section, which they would like to sell. Are there people from Alza here? Okay, cool. It's still worth it also to be done for big stuff during already a running project. Also, some of the techniques can be used separately. So you don't have to use the whole design sprint to only do usability testing or to do user journey mapping. And basically what we will talk about later, these are techniques which are known in product discovery, and they can be, of course, used separately and maybe even in a wider way. And there are questions usually also like customers, for instance, from London. They don't want to come to us. Can it be done remotely? Thanks to the fact that you are using tools like FigJam, you can do it, of course, totally remotely without any problems. There are some aspects and like how to tweak it. I will also answer it, but the answer is yes. What you need, as I said, from your side is every time around 2 UX designers, because don't think that one UX designer will do the whole prototype in 2 days. They would get crazy. I did that twice, and it was a bad thing. But yeah, lessons learned. Ideally, what I would suggest to you is to have one product person also there, because they are also thinking about the product differently. If you will not have from your side a product person, I would definitely involve some of the future team members, maybe a team leader, some senior developer, because the findings out of this design sprint are super crucial and it can be used in the later stage of the development. And what is important, if, for instance, I don't know, Andra there is thinking, sorry, I just choose a name. Andra is thinking, okay, we will start using it. You just need to know that you cannot do design sprint after another. Design sprint for 5 days is a huge energy costing thing. First of all, there will be a lot of activities which you need to do after design sprint, usually for around 2 weeks before you are actually doing the kickoff, and therefore you will be involved. So when I'm thinking about design sprint and uplifting, I need a team of around 8 UX designers trained and a lot of product people trained, because if there are, I don't know, 3, 2, or maybe 2 would be average, 2 design sprints per month, I need to rotate people and to use around the same team once per 2 months. Otherwise, they would be totally juiced. Some case studies. So I will tell you one anonymized case study. I hope that they are not listening online. It's nothing bad. We did one education portal for teachers in January, and it was one of the, I think, design sprints which didn't go as planned, but the results was awesome. But what went wrong? So on the beginning, I found out very soon that there are a lot of creative people involved from the customer side. Usually you would have people who are like, okay, I know the idea, but I'm here for listening. I knew that there will be people who are like having ideas totally against each other, and I was like, oh my God, they are going to totally, ruin my whole process, because as I said, it's like minute by minute planned thing. So what I did to manage some kind of expectations is to set up a meeting where I strongly explained what design sprint is about and what it is not about. Because they wanted to do brainstorming, and I said, no, this is not a meeting for brainstorming. You can do it before, you can do it after, but not during design sprint. Also, books sprint should be with like 7 people max involved, or ideal. 8 is something proved as well, but they wanted 10 people. And I'm strongly recommending you not doing it with 10 people, because every activity which you are going to do is going to be longer and longer, and therefore you will have less time for doing the prototype, and you cannot make, and then there is a big risk you will not make it until Friday. So what I did is that I only took a facilitator role. I was not the one getting any ideas, and therefore there were only 9 people. We managed it. Another tip how to do it in case a customer will push so many people to be involved. What was another interesting finding is that team was totally lost before the design sprint. They knew general idea, but they didn't know how to start it, and they were not really united. There were some, I would say, chemistry clashes, but after the design sprint, the team was much more united in what they want to do, and the clashes somehow disappear. Of course, Braňo, who is from the design team right now, would say there might still be some clashes, but I think it's much better, and I could not imagine Braňo be with this team and the customer without doing design sprint, because there will be immediately some chemistry problems. One negative thing which happened on the design sprint as well is that I went through the process very quickly, but you need to, what you should do is to on the beginning of first day, select a map, and as I said, select the scoping of what you want to do and what you don't want to do. And in the storyboard phase, you're also preparing view by view what you're going to prototype, and that's exactly setting the borders for creativity of your design team. But because, as I said, we had like 3 creative minds, there were people who were part of the UX team from the customer, and they somehow said, okay, Wednesday, we did what we did, we go home, and then next day, we just met, and they said, well, we did, some kind of hackathon during the night, and we created like 3 others, other features, and didn't consult it at all. Somehow, the client were convinced, okay, if we did it, let's test it. And it was not a good idea, because it was not part of our scope, and Braňo would confirm there that we immediately had a lot of complications in how to implement it in our design, and how many things, new things needs to be wired. And most importantly, the thing which we put there, and it was not structured, was tested by the end users, and we actually had to do some damage control after the interviews, because it was some kind of very new way how to show content to the pupils, students, yes, to the students. And it was so, I would say, new way that the teachers didn't like it, and we had to do some kind of a damage control afterwards, explaining that this is a concept. And this is also good to know that it doesn't necessarily be a good thing, bad thing that it was not expected by the end users the good way, but you of course need to do some damage control. Sorry, I got lost in it. Maybe some other case studies very quickly. There can be also, usually you have some kind of a real-looking prototype. I can also show you, for instance, here on our recent internal one, because I cannot, because of the NDA, show the customer ones. It is still like a real-looking. Just a second, I will probably restart it. Yeah, it is some kind of a real-looking facade, but it's still a facade. But you can scroll in it. You can, I don't know, just edit stuff. So. Your end users will have a feeling that this is a real-looking product. Actually, some of our teachers told us, "Hey, you have it implemented, so we can use it tomorrow." No, actually, it's a facade. But we had to test also some other stuff, like some complicated simulations, like AI avatar talking, AI chatbot talking to you. Doing that in Figma is not possible, but there are some maybe ways how we were thinking about it. You can, for instance, do a Google Meet talk with putting an avatar from Google Meet on your face and talking, and you can implant this Google Meet within your prototype, and by that we were trying to simulate it. There are also some game playing stuff which you can do. We can talk about it in the break if you want. Some remote specifics I would just highlight. If you are doing it totally remotely, it means for 8 hours, people are staring at their computers, which is even more energy consuming. So you need to do breaks even more, and you also need to solve the way how during Wednesday and Thursday, people will be not totally separated, because sometimes you need to check with them something. So you are doing something called breakout rooms on Zoom or Google Meet. So you always will be able to ask them for any consultancy if needed. And yeah, there are some role-playing specifics which we can skip. Some fuck-ups from my experience. First one is you need to make sure that during Wednesday you at least have set up design, look and feel, and few screens you want to do, and then only on Thursday implement more of them. So if after the first day you will not have this, it's a big warning signal. Second is, as I said, you need to book 5 days of all your team, and sometimes customers or us are not behaving as expected, and they are running to several meetings. If this is happening, it's totally ruining the focus of the whole team, and you need to explain to your customer that this should be limited to the very minimum. If it is needed, I'm usually explaining to customers that during Wednesday and Thursday when we are prototyping, we of course don't need the all human power, so maybe you can run for a 1 hour, 2 hour meeting, but not during Monday, Tuesday, or Friday. So that's the way how to mitigate this risk. As I said, 2 UX designers, usually you need 2 at least, too many people on design sprints, as I already explained. Very funny one. During my first design sprint 8 years ago, we had it even without FigJam, so we are using only paper and pencil and whiteboards. We went like home, and actually cleaning lady put everything to the trash bin and clean the whiteboard. Very funny one. We went to the trash bin and then trying to search for our papers. So if maybe one thing, just put a stick note on your door of a meeting room. Just don't throw it to the trash bin. And yeah, one last thing is also too many changes from the tested design after the design sprint. So after the design sprint, you will have a lot of findings you need to improve with your UX team. It's fine, but if you will find yourself doing so many changes, you simply need to do usability testing again before starting implementing it. Yeah. So maybe last point. Design sprint versus product discovery. There are people here from product who would say, okay, we are using a different way. We are doing extensive 1 month, 2 months product discovery, starting from lean canvas, doing user research. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm actually a big fan of this thing. But my finding is that nowadays, customers are not having money to spend 2 months of product discovery. It's very hard to convince them because they think that they have everything prepared. So the usual way how I'm implanting into the mind of the customer is start with a design sprint, and they will find out how actually well-prepared product they have. If they don't have it well prepared, then you can probably sell again more product discovery, which can be done and maybe done afterwards. Also, maybe one more thing: it's not against any kind of ideation phase before. So, for instance, yesterday there was a client coming to me and said, "Hey, I have this idea and I want to immediately start developing it." We stopped him, and we also find that there were some he prepared some lean canvas, and there was not clear how to build the revenue streams. And I told him, "Hey, the revenue streams is so much affecting the features we are going to implement even in the design sprint that you should still do your homework before doing the design sprint as such." So definitely, if you would spot this, I would not start with the design sprint. And again, design sprint is a subset of product discovery techniques in some kind of Pareto rule in practice. I would say if there's last thing, only one thing which you should take out of this this talk, is an answer for the question of what is the biggest benefit of the design sprint. Does anyone here know? Just one thing. Cost saving is a good thing, but it's not the biggest benefit. Yes?
Clear target.
Clear target is partly right. Sorry. Time. Sorry.
You will know if your idea doesn't work.
Exactly. So you will know that you are heading bad direction just in 5 days. But it's a subset of exactly what you just said. So I don't have anything else. If there are any questions, please feel free to ask. And yeah, thank you very much.
Amazing talk. Thank you very much. I especially like the part when you spoke about chemistry problems, because that reminded me of high school, but never mind. However, I have a first question, and that's, you mentioned that you know how to persuade clients to keep their schedule empty and have ideal meetings only on those 2 prototyping days. How do you do that? Because I think that we may struggle a bit with that.
It's a very hard one. Thank you very much, Philip. I think that this was not prepared. Yeah, I think that it's important to realize that and to also tell to your clients that they will spend the same amount of time with just a separate meeting with a longer time frame. So it can be like 4 weeks of different meetings, but totally together it will be 5 days of like 40 hours. And if they will not, it's not even like the best way, because if you are running from meeting to meeting and you are having meeting on Monday at 2 o'clock, Tuesday another meeting at 3 o'clock, you are just not in the focus. If you have for 5 days focus, the result can be much, much better, and you are increasing the changes and de-risking the project of your de-risking the project so much that it's just worth doing it. I think that usually when I'm selling this, there is a lot of iterations of, okay, we cannot do this. I'm then explaining, okay, but if you are on a vacation, you can be without meetings for 5 days. If you mean it, if you mean your project seriously, you should do that. Usually, we are able to maybe sometimes say, okay, this person will be on an expert. This person is important and will be for the whole 5 days, but maybe run for 2 meetings. You need to find some balance. But you should not get to the state that you will say, we will do design sprints, and people will be leaving like to various meetings all the time. I don't know if I answered the question, but it's a hard one, honestly.
Thanks a lot. So are there any questions in the room? Anyone?
I will have 2 actually. One is very simple. You mentioned that you only vote on the subset of the how might we. So the first question would be, how do you then select that subset? And a second question would be, I guess, more specific to uplifting. Since, as you mentioned, design sprint is aimed to be focused on one specific problem, how do you balance it with using it as sort of a kickoff of the project, which of course will be much broader, as you mentioned, you cannot do the whole app.
Okay, so first with the subset. So as I said, there can be hundreds of notes created during the expert interviews. So what is done as a second stage is that, so I think that every interview costs around 20 minutes. After this, we are selecting for around 10 minutes, each one of us, 10 ideas which we liked most. So 10 people, 10 ideas makes it around, or sorry, not 10 people, 7 people ideas. So it's around 60 papers we are then putting under this organization part. And then out of those, we will together split them in some categories. So for instance, this was some allocation, some health of the project, some dashboard part, some process part. So we are organizing them together. And then during last part, we are voting. So every one of us has got around 8 votes. And by doing the voting, it will somehow highlight which parts, which 8 notes are the most important one. But again, this is written even in the book, so you are following the process, and every step has got its minutes donation. For your did I answer your question?
Yep.
For the second question, what is usually happening after the design sprint is, and I'm telling to the customer, you cannot start the next day the kickoff. You should take around 2 weeks for taking step back and first of all doing some kind of analysis of your notes from the testing, and out of these set up action points, what needs to be changed in the design, what if the customer already had the product backlog ready, what needs to be changed in the product backlog, and do their homework. So usually they are also out of us maybe having one designer who are doing the changes, maybe one person who can help with the product in case the product owner is really busy. And after those 2 weeks, or meanwhile, during those 2 weeks, some project manager, scrum master can plan a kickoff, everything, whatever, inform the development team. And then during the kickoff, we are showing the results of the design sprint. We have only part of the application, and what can be also done, and I forgot to say it, the UX designer can design other views based on our design and look and feel, which we didn't prepare. So during those 2 weeks, some first preparation can be done. And of course, if the application is very complex, the UX designer will be there for longer time, but we will have already a point where developers can start developing while we are preparing the other screens.
Right, thanks a lot.
No problem.
So more questions, anyone?
Also 2 questions, sorry. First one, have you seen Design Sprint 2.0? Is it any better?
I've read the article. I think that they are even trying to push to 4 days. I would not do that, honestly. I think that 1 day is not a big differentiator thing for customer to pay their time and money. And if you sorry, when I showed you this, I'm actually trying after those 8 years finding some ways how to improve it and speed it up. So having sketch for only Tuesday, that doesn't make sense. Deciding for a separate day also. So you can combine this. But actually, Wednesday and Thursday, if you are having much more time for prototyping, it's really worth it. And most importantly, when we did only prototyping in one day, what happened to my UX team always was that they were designing until 2 a.m. to have it actually ready. So in reality, it anyhow takes 2 days. So I'm actually not a big fan of Design Sprint 2.0 in a form of 4 days, but some of those ideas are actually also hidden here. But what about you?
Yeah, cool. That's a great answer, and some of their other points, like mixing other methods in that, kind of splitting the day into more parts, maybe helps with something that you mentioned. And I've been the designer who did it until 2 a.m. Yeah, I feel the pain. And the second question: what about recruiting users, especially if you do it for foreign clients? How do you deal with that?
Can you explain again, please?
Well, you have to test it, right? And what if like some English company is doing something for English people? How do you test that? You would need like an agency there to recruit people for you, or do you just do it remote?
Okay, so I get it. So whenever we are setting up who are going to be the end users, at the end, usually clients set this. So they are selecting, okay, maybe you are preparing an app for clerks in the bank. So actually they will select some of them. Of course, if it is for wider audience, like doing a second Spotify, maybe we can help to find some users by some agencies who does that if it is abroad. But usually customer it's a customer responsibility for doing that. And how to do it remotely, it's just, you will set up something like a Google Meet, you will do the recording, streaming. It's not a big problem. Of course, it's much better to do it physically in the room, but I think that you can, again, with Pareto rule in practice, still get around 80% of results and without problems. Yeah.
That makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. More questions?
Ahoy. Why not to do it?
Okay, to the point. Why not to do it?
Oh, I mean when?
When not to do it? I think that it's also part. Okay, cool. The first one was much harder. I think you should not do it when you are not even sure how to monetize your product. You are not answering simple question in the lean canvas. So I think that if you are doing a startup, for instance, you should really be sure about that what you are going to do is a problem of your end users, and that how it's going to be paid. If it is, of course, some internal application. Okay, maybe one more idea. If your app is backend heavy, but really heavy, so it's some kind of microservice. There is no user interface. You can like test by this. I tested also in my previous company machine learning design sprints. You can by this do some kind of a POC of your learning models. But I think that this is somehow something else than design sprint. So if you have a very heavy backend application which doesn't have at all any design like user interface, I would not use it, honestly. What about you? What do you think?
I was more thinking like I wouldn't use it like if I'm already later in the life cycle of the product. Yeah, so probably I would do it only in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I was just trying to think like when I would not use it. Like you said in the beginning, usually the client don't know what they want. They think that they know what they want, but I was trying to imagine when the client comes and I'll be like, yeah, you're totally right. Let's just do it right tomorrow. Yeah, but I don't know what would they have to come to me with. Maybe they would say, oh, we already did the design sprint and this is the result. But then I see like the good point that it's good to like what you said, introduce the teams and do something together. It builds the trust from the beginning. So maybe just do design sprint all the time.
Actually, if you have a product which is already running and you are going to implement a feature which is going to, I don't know, approximately be developed in 2 weeks, I would not do a design sprint for that and simply maybe doing it and just testing it. But if you are your new feature is going to be half a year of development, it's going to be something very complex. Just do it. in 5 days you will know if it is a trash like category or if it is a good thing. So, but very hard decisions, definitely.
Thanks. I guess that was a question right back there. Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, great presentation, lots of detail. I enjoyed it.
Thank you.
I do have a question. I looked at the team composition you're suggesting for design sprints, and I noticed nobody from a technical capacity. Is that intentional? And what's your POV on having them around at this stage?
Yeah, I was trying to say it, but probably not clear enough that you know, you need to limit number of people from your side. It's usually like 3 people. If customer doesn't have too many roles, we can definitely implant some future developer there as well. What we do in case we don't have a product person ready, because 2 weeks designers is a must, we also place there 1 future developer, some senior developer, because definitely I totally recommend to have some future team members, because they don't only know what we want to build, but what we don't want to build. There are so many bad paths which we are not selecting, and therefore every member who will be using this information later on is valuable. So the only problem is like you cannot have, like as I said, 10 people, 9 people, and if customer needs to have usually, you know, C-level person, head of marketing, I don't know, customer care person, future product owner, we are already on 4, then you need to have 3 by your side, so you are limited by number of people. If you don't have too many people from customer side, for instance, only 2 or 3, implant a future developer, good thing to do, definitely.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay, is that perhaps the last question? Anyone?
I promise I'll try to make it really quick. You mentioned that this is a really boiled down process. You're saving lots of, you're not necessarily saving lots of product discovery, but perhaps you're getting a lot of it done in a very short amount of time. However, I can imagine some situations where even like the 7 people times 8 hours times 5 days, that could be some large chunk of the budget of a project already. Perhaps it's something internal. Perhaps it's a smaller feature. Do you think that there is any value in trimming down the design sprint already? So maybe perhaps it's 4 hours times 5 days? What would you cut? Or in that case, would you just throw out the idea entirely?
I think that, sorry, I can hear myself somehow. Yeah, thank you. I think that you either do it properly or not doing it at all. So I think that even answering question of the gentleman right there, 4-day design sprint, I would not recommend it. So trimming it down, not really. But again, let's not forget the product discovery and product people have got a lot of techniques for user research, for some end users interviews, usability testing as such. There are so many techniques you can use separately, and maybe, yeah, this is the only thing which you need. So do some of them and do them properly. If you want to use design sprint, do it properly. Yeah.
So I bet you have many more questions, but let's leave that to the second part, the discussion. And for now, thank you very much, Honza, for the amazing presentation.
And I would just only like to say that thank you very much also, and I would totally appreciate in the second part any of your experiences, how you're using it, what is not working, because I would like to learn as well.
Right, so take a 10-minute break and enjoy some food, talk to your friends, and let's sit down in 10 minutes.
Thank you.